Hey YouTube, Kira Qualia here, bringing you all an update to my Cardfight Vanguard Gurguit Gold Paladin standard deck profile for post the restricted list February 2021. With the upcoming release of Gold Paladin, we had some restrictions for the standard format Gold Paladin, in which Gurguit wasn't able to be played, with Percival both being grade 3s that came out from the latest set. So you can either have a choice restriction where you can either have all Gurguit in your deck or Percival. So obviously with the deck focusing around Gurguit, you want to use this as your go-to grade 3, but with it we had to change some options for the backup grade 3, and with it I also adjusted some of the other numbers for the grade 2s and 1s that I run in the lineup. So I felt a deck update was definitely due for the profile in total. So let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So for our grade 3 lineup, the one thing that's remained the same is still running the 4 Sunrise, Ray, Night, Gurguit on Vanguard. During your turn, if your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, this unit and all of your units placed by a card's ability this turn get plus 5,000 for each of your additional rearguard circles. So it's just a good power boost ability that's continuous on Vanguard Circle during your turn. And on Vanguard Circle once per turn, when it attacks or is attacked, you can counterblast 1, look at 5 cards from the top of your deck, call up to 2 cards from among them to rear, and also shuffle your deck. If your opponent's turn, you can call it to the guard circle instead of the rear. So this is where the defensive capabilities come in for Sunrise, Ray, Night, Gurguit, being able to then focus on defensive plays, placing them on the guard circle. Depending on what cards you call out, you can reach some pretty big shields to block against your opponent's attacks, and then also just being able to set up your rear guards with the main playstyle of Gold Paladin, having all the additional rear guard circles, and then just being able to call more and more units to those circles all together. So you want 4 of it. It's definitely your go-to ride target for the deck. For the backup grade 3s, I also run 3 Battlefield Storm Sagramore on Vanguard or rear. When placed from hand, you Soul Blast 1, draw a card, and call a card from your hand to rear guard. So you just have the option for more setup with this card. Being an Imaginary Gift Excel, it's a good backup grade 3 option in case you don't open up your Gurguit. You can at least ride into Sagramore, giving you the additional skill on your Vanguard circle, even if it's not on a rearguard circle, for just a Soul Blast to draw a card, and then calling a card from your hand to rear, which then also, if you open up another Sagramore, you can just call out another one since it was drawn and you called the card from your hand to the field. And then for the last of the grade 3 lineup, I also run 2 full Cavalier Dragon on Vanguard or rear once per turn. You Soul Blast 1, look at the top card of your deck and call it to rear, and one of your Vanguards gets plus 5,000 until end of turn. So just the original call power, and the power boost, especially to your Vanguard, can come in handy, but also you don't really use your Soul for much else aside from full Cavalier or Sagramore in the deck, with Gurguit focusing mainly on counterblasting for its skills. So the backup grade 3s can definitely provide additional support using your Soul for resources, which can be easily replenished with some of the other cards we run in the deck. That's it for the grade 3s. Moving on now to the grade 2s. Still running Oath, Liberator, Aglaval. Sadly, like I said, Percival can't be run in the deck anymore, but this card's still very, very useful when placed. You can counterblast 1, look at 3 cards from the top of your deck, call up to 1 card from among them the rear, and put the rest on the bottom of your deck in any order. And on rearguard, when it attacks, you put another rearguard into your Soul, and this unit gets plus 10,000 to end of battle, and then at the end of that battle, return this unit to your hand. So what's best about your Aglaval is that it has nothing to do with Percival for any of its skills, so this card wasn't really hit at all when the restriction for the deck popped up, since you can still fully focus on using this card along with your additional Gold Paladin support that we run in the deck to set up all your plays, and not taking away from any of the Soul abilities for Sagramore and Full Cavalier when we use this card. So just an added bonus there for sure with this setup. For the additional backup grade 2s, I run 4 Knight of Spring's Light Paramore on Vanguard or rear. Once per turn, counterblast 1, call a grade 2 or less card from your hand to rear, and draw a card. So it's kind of like a reverse Sagramore, with you calling the card first and then drawing a card, at least giving you the resource with Sagramore, but it's a once per turn. It doesn't have to be when placed, which makes it much better, especially for that setup, since it's just a once per turn if you have this card ready to go. And on rear or guard circle, when placed by a card's ability, this unit gets plus 5,000 power or plus 5,000 shield until end of turn. Just adding to the 10k power can definitely make up for it if it's one of the cards you revealed from from your Gurguit when you use it, just having the option to then call this card out as if it were a 10k shield, which most of the time just comes up with your grade 1 units, but hitting for that. And let's say you put a trigger unit or at least one other grade 1 onto the circle to guard, can definitely make up for the +5 if that's just all you're short from blocking an opponent's attack. And lastly, for the grade 2s, I also run 3 Knight of Strong Favors, Berengaria. On rear, when placed by a card's ability, perform one of the effects below. You can counterblast 1 to soul charge 1, or you can soul blast 1 to countercharge 1. So it's basically a reverse on all the different skills depending on the resource you need. If you have counterblast to spare, you can build soul up. If you have soul to spare, you can reclaim some of your counterblasts. Very, very useful. And like I said, it's just that for resources. Whether you open it up and call it out with Paramore, since it just has to be called with a card's ability, so you can use Paramore, Gurguit, Sagamore, you name it, plenty of options for all the different cards to call this card out. The only weakness, obviously, is if you have to ride this card as a ride target, since you have plenty of other better ride targets in the deck as a whole to use. And that is it for the grade 2s. We'll now move on to the grade 1s. I run 4 Dawning Knight Gorbaduk. On Vanguard or rear during your turn, if you have 2 or more of your rear guards recalled this turn, it gets plus 5,000 power, which can easily be done with it being the main playstyle of the deck, and also just being the grade 3 searcher when placed from hand by looking at 5 cards from the top of your deck and revealing a grade 3 from among them, and then discarding a card. And what's great about this card is with cards like Sagamore, when placed, you draw a card and call a card from your hand to rear. Same with your Paramore. So if you call this card out, it was still called from hand. So you could still use the search power. It wasn't like a superior call from the deck onto the field. So you'll still be able to get that grade 3 search option, which definitely works very, very well since it's the initial playstyle of the Gurguit Gold Paladin deck altogether. And also I run 4 of Sunshine Knight Jeffrey. On Vanguard, when placed, look at 7 cards at the top of your deck, reveal up to 1 Sunrise Ray Knight Gurguit or Knight of Spring's Light Paramore from among them, put it into your hand, and shuffle your deck. It's search power. It's your best grade 1 ride target to rely on, having the search power for a good majority of the cards you're running in the deck, whether it be your grade 2 or grade 3 ride target. And on rear guard or guard circle, when placed by a card's ability, this unit gets plus 5 power or shield until end of turn. So both of those options are great, just going off of the same lineup like Paramore. Even if you just call both of these cards, the additional plus 10 shield that both can provide can be enough to guard against the attack your opponent may have against you, just depending on the situation that you were going for. Just remember also with Gurguit shield being a once per turn for that shield, just knowing when to use it properly against your opponent's attack. Depending on which attack it would be, you most will likely want to do it against a Vanguard. And then lastly, for some of the grade 1 options, I do have the 4 Herd Anchor Biscote, with this one being a rear guard once per turn, counterblast 1, soul blast 1, look at 3 cards from the top of your deck, call 1 card from among them in the rear, and put the rest of the bottom of your deck in any order. So this could be a resource card, just depending on the setup you want to go for. It does take away a lot from the counterblasting and the soul blasting, but as for the final spot for the grade 1s, I have the 1 Listener of Truth Dindrain. Now I am thinking of bumping this card up more, and if I were to do so, I would adjust it with the numbers of Herd Archer Biscote in the deck, just for mixing around some of the numbers. You may even try just running, let's say 3 Dindrain and 2 Herd Archer, since Dindrain just has a when placed by a card's ability, Soul Blast 1 and draw a card, or Counterblast, counter charge, and this unit gets plus 3,000. So having resources available, or just giving you resources with this card when you need it, but while Biscote takes up a lot of resources to call a card, while at least Dindrain gives you more draw power and the option to counter charge if you don't have that to use. And then that is it for the grade 1s. We'll now move on to the grade 0s. Our starter, Colo, is still the best grade 0. Most fitting, it was used in the original Gurguit deck, and just having the updated quick shield, ticket, text for those playing the game, just so you have the option to show your opponent the skill along with the draw power. And for the trigger lineup, I'm sticking to the 3 Scarface Lion and the 1 Halo Shield Mark. I do like the pressure that the additional criticals, along with running the front triggers in the deck, can provide, but I may even consider running 2 Halo Shield Marks and 2 Scarface Lions just to have the guaranteed guard option against my opponent and a little more draw power to give hand resources to me. You have no problem building up field in this deck, but along with Gurguit's skill, you want some more protection using your own hand against your opponent. And then the last of the trigger lineup being the 4 Knight of Blue Skies Shinnok. Like I said, criticals are great pressure in this deck altogether, but with the last 2 lineups being the 4 front trigger, this especially with the additional rear guards. You just want that power boost that you can use for pressure against your opponent. If your opponent sees the critical triggers and the front triggers as a mixed combo, they'll definitely, feel pressure. Whether you give the critical trigger to rear guard and then just have the immense power brought on by a front trigger as well, it might be the one attack they can't guard against. And lastly, the 4 front Trank Sage pair-on for the heal trigger. It's the newest one. I just find the most fitting, with the previous heal trigger being more, I would say, for Ezel decks related to that in standard format. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoyed the video. Like I said, I definitely wanted to update this deck for quite some time since the irregular list was announced. I don't know if we'll have any more, updates for the list for standard format, with D format right around the corner. I guess we'll have to see with the collector series coming out soon if we'll see any changes to the list with any of these cards providing any additional, broke plays for standard format. But until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and Kira Qualia out.